And also welcome to Forest Park. Okay, next we have a presentation from concerned Van Buren citizens on behalf of the Grove Mid-Rise Condominium Association.
My name is Gene Armstrong. I live at 7753 Van Buren, number 516 in Forest Park. I am the chairman of Concerned Van Buren Citizens. I'm also the president of the Grove Mid-Rise Condominium Association and a member of the Grove Community Board. Concerned Van Buren Citizens is a commission designated by the Grove Mid-Rise Condominium Association to represent Grove residents in matters pertaining to future uses of the Altenheim property. More information about our commission is included in our written presentation, which has already been provided to you. On behalf of the residents of the Grove, we thank the board for this opportunity to present views related to the final report of the Altenheim Advisory Committee. Our views are informed by the results of our survey of all Grove residents. 114 responses we received represent a 62% return rate. Our support and our opposition to elements of the final report are consistent with and reflect the survey responses. Our written presentation has been provided. We ask that it be included in the public record. I wish to note that Concerned Van Buren citizen leadership attended all public meetings of the advisory committee. A quick summary of our position with respect to the final report. We support most of the recommendations. We have reservations about some of the representations. I'll speak first to the recommendations. We endorse and support the recommendation that a substantial portion of the purchased parcel be committed to open space, that development on the purchased property be limited to low-density residential. We support the effort to avoid further traffic congestion on Van Buren. We are pleased that the committee recommended the village honor the covenants in the purchase agreement and that they honor the restrictions in the building demolition grant. We are pleased that the report expresses a concern that anything that happens there protect the neighbors' right to quiet enjoyment of their homes. This is applying not only to the Altenheim Senior Living Facility, but also the Grove community. We are supportive of the representations that recommend passive recreation uses on the purchased parcel. We are sympathetic to the possibility of transit-oriented development. We also are sympathetic and appreciate the committee's report that said new residential should be compatible with neighboring developments. We appreciate they brought attention to the need for stormwater management and parking management. We also are supportive of suggestions that would place the residential development on the west side of the purchased parcel. We are not supportive of the recommendation or the suggestion that commercial development be allowed on the purchased parcel. We are not supportive of any notion that the open space be committed to active recreation, basketball courts, soccer fields, softball diamonds, tennis courts. We are not supportive of the notion that the development itself should fund the establishment and maintenance of the open space. This, we believe, should be a public open space, and we would support the use of public funds to establish and maintain that open space. We are not supportive of the notion that the developer should be responsible for future park maintenance. Again, this is public space a public entity should be responsible for maintenance. We are not supportive of the notion that higher density residential development could be allowed, especially in the south and the southeast portions of the property. And we are a little concerned about the suggestion throughout the report that the village should try to figure out what the developer wants. We are more supportive of the notion that let's have the village aim for what the village wants. I'll now turn to representations. At the bottom of page 2 and the top of page 3 of the report, it states, and I quote, "The committee engaged in discussions with major stakeholders, including members of committees from neighboring residences and advocates for public uses. None of the participants in such discussions is named. None of the participants appeared at any public meeting to discuss with the committee members the future uses of the Altenheim property. We don't know when or where such discussions occurred. I would note that the Illinois Open Meetings Act does apply. In respect to discussions with members of committees from neighboring residences, I can say with certainty that the committee held no discussions with members of a committee from the Grove. In fact, neither Muse nor the committee even contacted the board of the Grove Mid-Rise Condominium Association, the board of the Grove Community Association, the board of the Grove Townhome Association, or the leaders of concerned Van Buren citizens. I also seriously doubt that they had discussions with members of a committee of residents from the townhomes at 7771 Van Buren, as I don't believe there is such a committee, or with members of a committee of residents from the Altenheim Senior Living Facility, as I also don't believe such a committee exists. I conclude that there were no such discussions with members of a committee from neighboring residences, at least none from those that are most likely to be most affected by the future uses of the property, the Grove, 7771 townhomes, and the Altenheim Senior Living Facility. I feel it's important to report that the Concerned Van Buren Citizens Committee asked to make a presentation to the advisory committee. I was allowed 3 minutes to speak. I answered 2 or 3 clarifying questions posed by members of the committee. There was no discussion that involved members of Concerned Van Buren Citizens. I respectfully suggest that my 3-minute speech was not a discussion with the committee. I now want to speak to the plot plans that were attached to the final report. The attached plot plans, along with different plot plans, were discussed. We heard no committee member suggest that these 2 plot plans, quote, incorporate the committee's goals and visions for the property, end quote. That appears in the middle of page 1 of the final report. We see these plot plans as a contradiction to the recommendations clearly stated throughout the final report. Use of the property for open space and low-density residential. Close inspection of the plot plans that depict less intensive development does show low-density residential, but it shows virtually residential from property line to property line of the purchased parcel. Open space on the purchased parcel, such as it is relegated to walkways within the residential development and a narrow strip along the eastern boundary. Green space shown at the southeast corner is not space on the purchased property, the property that is subject to the purchase agreement and the demolition grant. It is on property the village already owns. This is also true of the green space provided at the north end. The triangle is also property the village already owns, and it is not subject to the use restrictions the committee strongly urges the village to honor. To honor these commitments means substantial portions of the purchased property must be devoted to open space. Close inspection of the plot plan that depicts A more intense development is worse. The skimpy open space along the eastern boundary is eliminated. Mid-rise multifamily dominates this space. This is an even greater deviation from the terms of the purchase agreement and the demolition grant. On behalf of the residents of the Grove, the concerned Van Buren citizens urge the commissioners to disavow these two plot plans. Thank you very much. I'm available for questions about my comments or about the written report that we have provided.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Okay, Commissioners, the next item on tonight's agenda is a presentation. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Commissioners, the next item is a
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. Before we move on, just wanted to circle back because we had 3 presentations, but we didn't get to really discuss, or I had a comment about the Altenheim presentation. Can I just add something really quick?
You mean you want something to go into our record?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Please.
So I just wanted to comment, going back to the Altenheim Advisory Committee and the Concerned Citizens of Altenheim Advisory Board. And I just wanted to make the observation that especially in the report that we received about the Altenheim Advisory Committee meeting records, the meeting minutes, there's a summary of the meeting minutes on the website, but any other detailed meeting minutes, I thought that was a good observation to be on the website as part of being a new person to this process, that it would be advantageous to have more public information. And I thought some of the observations that were raised in the discussion.
I'm aware of what's on the website.
No, I'm
Wait, Mr. Armstrong. You had your minutes.
I'm supporting the observation that having the public participation and the minutes of the public participation of the Altenheim Advisory Committee be included on the website. As if there's any missing information, it would be helpful, I think, to flesh out the summaries. If there's any additional information, I think that would be helpful. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, Commissioners, let's see. Commissioners, next item is a resolution approving the pay request number. Thank you, Commissioner Mellon-Rogovan. Commissioner Vogt.
Yeah, so we didn't get to address this earlier, so I just wanted to thank the concerned Van Buren citizens for their presentation today. You offered great insight and feedback pertaining to that final report. I want to thank also the Altenheim Committee volunteers and for their time throughout this process, and for y'all always showing up and staying engaged in the process. You know, you offered some really interesting insights, including sort of the disparity in what was listed in the written word and the attached drawings. And you also talked about the National Park Survey, which, you know, a lot of this stuff, had the committee had an opportunity to hear your feedback before they drafted their final report, I think it would have been really helpful, and we could have avoided some of that. I know that the committee never received the National Park Service report, even though that was pretty substantial, and I know that's not on the website. So, you know, to identify those things before the final report was submitted, I think would be helpful, and I think you've set a great example of how valuable that kind of interaction is. So I really want to thank you for taking the time to come here and share that with us. I look forward to the village, because the onus is now on us because the AAC has closed and that report is final. But so the onus is on us now to figure out soliciting feedback. Hopefully we will invite more people to share their input like you've done so tonight, so that we can get a better idea of how the community feels about it, and that we make a meaningful attempt to engage the public as we move forward. And then I have a few things that I'll try to get through quickly.